Hi, welcome back to Lecture 2 in the Sociology of Work and Technology, Week 9, where we're going to talk a little bit about technology outside of urban centers and outside of North America.
Ring the alarm, another sound is dying. Whoa, hey, ring the alarm, another sound is dying. Whoa, hey, some sound like a...
Now, in the last lecture, I talked about the importance of place and materiality in the digital economy. We talked about the spaces in which people work, especially co-working spaces. The key insight that place matters, even in this digital economy. This shows up quite clearly in Xiaowei Wang's account of farming in rural China. Xiaowei Wang is a Bay Area-based designer, developer, and scholar whose work explores and connects disparate spaces like art and academia, coding and cooking, in rural Sichuan and Silicon Valley. And this comes, this chapter that I had you read comes from a collection of essays entitled Blockchain, Chicken Farm, and Other Stories of Tech in China's Countryside. It's a great read, and I recommend it to anyone who enjoyed this chapter. Now, I think it's crucial to highlight how technology affects not just urban workers, as in Grazian's discussion or our discussions of factory workers, social media workers, and tech sector employees, but that technology in the global economy also impacts people in the countryside, people on farms. So how should we read this chapter through the lens of the sociology of work and technology? How should we think about what we're reading about? What do we see happening here? Well, Wang describes the implementation of blockchain technology on farms in China's countryside. Because blockchain technology allows for fairly foolproof tracing of objects or payments, this technology is implemented in an effort to maintain food safety. Scanning chickens as they travel from birth to death to your kitchen, and then logging those scans with blockchain technology enables the tracking of chickens and other objects throughout fairly complex global supply chains, or in this case, a complex supply chain within a single, very large, very densely populated country. The implementation of this technology, however, is quite costly to individual farmers. Farmers also do not buy or cannot own the technology once purchased. They're actually just kind of paying for a service. The blockchain tech is forever owned by the company's designers and manufacturers. So I assign this because I think, one, it's a fascinating story. It's just something that's interesting to know about, but also because I think it illustrates several ideas from the course in a non-North American, non-urban context. First of all, these farmers are parts of a large networked production process. They don't work for the companies that sell their chickens, and they also do not own the technology that they use to keep track of the chickens. Likewise, they don't own the trucks used to transport their chickens to the sellers. Each of these organizations that runs the trucks, that owns the technology, the blockchain technology, the people who run the farm, the people who sell the food, they're all independent of each other, right? Yet they work together as a network to produce chickens. Likewise, we see technology taking over for the more conventional social glue of networked organizations. Rather than trust or some other social mechanism for enforcing the quality of products and services, in this case chickens, farmers and other members of the supply chain rely on blockchain technology to guarantee the provenance or origin of chickens, and thus the absence of defects. This isn't wholly unlike algocracy, in which trust or belief was less important than rules that were enforced at the level of code. And here we see something similar. It's not identical, but it is similar. Now, all of this takes place, again, in rural China. And what I hope you noticed in the text is how the experience of these people is both very similar to you or I, yet wholly different than your own. They use social media, but entirely different apps. They converse through social media or apps like WeChat. And they use the internet, but under different local political conditions. High-tech systems govern the raising of chickens in remote parts of China, yet cell phone service remains quite limited in those same remote areas. Place then affects not just how we feel when we work, what Grazian pointed out in the last lecture that I talked about, but also the conditions of that work and the technological systems used to conduct the work. Place then affects the materiality of where we work, just as it also affects the materiality or design of the technologies through which we work. The last thing I want to talk about is how we think about technology. Usually, when we talk about tech, I think a lot of us imagine some sort of shiny, clean, bright, often urban future. Yet what we're seeing here in this reading, in this book chapter, what we're seeing here is rural people grappling with the effects of runaway capitalism, using technology to do so. They hope that technology might solve these problems. But as Wang suggests, technological solutions often end up reproducing the social problems that they purport to solve, or perhaps even creating new ones. I think here are some key insights from earlier in the course, key insights from Judy Weissman, Keith Grint, and Stephen Woolgar. They help us understand that technologies have certain ideas, scripts, ideologies built into them. In this case, blockchain presumes a brutish, selfish individual. And Wang asks, could we perhaps imagine more from ourselves and more from human beings? And if so, why don't we build technologies that presume a better, more humane society? And on that thought, I'll see you next week. Take care.